Hey everyone, Garrett here. Dee Navarre nominated me to share my story of what Jesus has done for me. And I'd like to share a verse with you that's stuck with me for a very long time. I discovered it way back in high school. And it's Zechariah chapter 4, verse 7. It says, "What are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you shall become a plain. And he shall bring out the top stone amid shouts of grace, grace to it." Now this guy Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was a leader in Israel after the Israelites had returned from exile in Babylon. So they were living in the land of Babylon. They got taken from their homes, and now they had been freed by the Persians to return back to the Holy Land. And so they're in the city of Jerusalem, and the city is utterly devastated. And so they're looking to begin these rebuilding projects within the city. And Zerubbabel specifically is looking to rebuild the temple of God in Jerusalem. Unfortunately for Zerubbabel, there's a lot of opposition that he faces. There's complaining from the people, there's infighting in various groups that are in the land, there's all this drama that's going on, and on top of that, Zerubbabel is standing before a literal mountain of rubble on the temple foundation, trying to figure out what to do. And so God offers Zerubbabel a word of comfort. And he says to Zerubbabel, what is that mountain that stands before you? Before Zerubbabel, that mountain will become a plain. That God will give Zerubbabel exactly what he needs to accomplish his task. That this mountain that stands before him, though it seems immovable, though it seems impossible, God will get him through it. And for me, a huge mountain, probably the biggest mountain that I have faced in my life, that seemed immovable. It seemed like it was never going to go away. It seemed like there was nothing that could get me past this mountain, was depression. I've experienced depression probably since I was a teenager. For a long time, I wouldn't acknowledge it. I didn't admit it. I didn't really talk about it. But for pretty much since my teenage years, since high school, I can remember feeling really down and lost and sad. Times I felt like life was meaningless, that it was pointless. I felt a lot of hopelessness and just being down. I thought a lot about death and dying a lot, and things were just not good. And it affected everything in my life, from my health to my relationships with my friends and my family and my wife. It damaged a lot of things, and I really believe that I didn't live the most fruitful life that I could have lived because I had this depression. It kept me from really being the person that God wanted me to be. It held me back. And I wouldn't admit it. I didn't like to talk about it. I never talked about it to anyone. And as I got older, I started to recognize that it was very damaging to me and to others, and I wanted it to go away, and I didn't know how to make it go away. This mountain stood before me, and it seemed impossible that it would be moved. And I remember crying out to God and asking God for it to go away. And for years I prayed this, and it wouldn't go away. It never went away. It felt like God wasn't answering my prayer. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then so I eventually just gave up on praying about it, kind of went back to what I was doing before, and that was just ignoring it. That I thought that if I could just ignore it, I could just get through it, I could just do what I needed to do, like eventually it'll just solve itself, right? I even at certain points wouldn't admit that it was a real problem. I thought it was just all, made up in my head. And so I wasn't really handling it well. And then one day, God decides to answer my prayer by sending my wife. And when I got married, I recognized, it started becoming apparent just how obvious my depression was. That this wasn't something that was just going to go away. This wasn't something that was just made up. This was a real problem because it affected somebody I love deeply. And so one day, my wife sits me down and tells me, "You need to get help. You need to talk to somebody. We need to do something about this because this is not how people are supposed to live." And she was the first person that I'd ever really talked to about my depression. And after that, I went to a doctor. I went to a counselor, and I got on a treatment plan, and I am here to tell you that my entire life has been changed because of that treatment plan. And I really believe that treatment plan came through God's intervention through my wife. That God sent these people into my life to change me forever, to make me the person that God has always wanted me to be. And the change in me has been light and day. I'm much more excited to get up in the morning. I can't remember the last time I felt hopeless about life. I can't remember the last time I thought about death and dying. Things have just been so much better now that I've been getting treatment for this. And especially in this time right now, I really think in this whole quarantine, if I hadn't gotten what I needed, things would have not been great. Things would have been so terrible if I was feeling the level of depression that I felt years ago that I was feeling now. And so that makes me turn to you. I think there are a lot of people right now who are experiencing depression. And some of it might just be because of the current environment that we're facing right now. You might be feeling down about that. Some of it might be something that you have experienced for a very long time. And I want you to know that no matter what your case is, talk to somebody about it. We like to pretend that mental health isn't a real issue, but here's the thing, it's a very serious issue. If it is causing damage to your life, to your health, to your safety, to your loved ones, it's a real thing. And I encourage you to seek out help from someone. Talk to someone, even if it's just a family member. Talk to someone you love and you trust, and go and get the help that you need. Because God, He wants us to live a life full of joy, right? And I really believe that mental health, mental illness is an attack from the enemy to rob us of the joy that God has for us. It is not part of God's plan. It's part of this broken world that we live in, and God has an answer for that for you. And so I encourage you, go seek out help. God will make that mountain a plain before you. Trust in Him. I nominate Jen Sykes tomorrow to share her story. So be sure to come at 1 o'clock tomorrow to check that out as well. All right, love you guys. Have a great day.